What's up, fam? Welcome to this week's episode of Off the Reservation, a show chasing the ever-elusive answer to the question, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more.
No more. No more.
I'm your number one wizard, Mal.
I'm Al.
Oh, man, I'm the son of Picasso.
And today we have another very special guest with us. We'd like to introduce everybody to Phil?
Phillip?
Or Philip?
Phillip? Philip.
I guess this is
Let's
a
go
question we
Phillip
should have
Tsoodle.
asked before. Philip
right.
Tsoodle. Guys, give a round of applause to Phillip Tsoodle. Say, oh, yeah, see, we got the soundboard going.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're excited. Phil is a,
He's family.
If you haven't cued in on that, he's family.
What was it? Was the first episode where I was the only non-native in the family? So yeah, you know.
Was it?
It might have been. We've said a lot of things, and that may be a reason why he's only just now agreed to. No. We are excited. Phil is, he's
a dude.
Yeah, no, he's I don't know what I'm
So
trying to say.
he is in the medical profession. He's
The reason why we brought him here today.
Well, Phil's an all-around. He's a good time.
he's a good guy.
He's a good guy. He's a good time.
I'm here to provide medical support and
Yeah. We're
physical. Are we doing physicals right now?
We're
doing interventions here. Oh yeah. That's
He's going to be part of our spearhead our medical team here for the podcast.
He's going to be our
Big things
liaison.
changing, man. Big things changing.
Well, before we get too far into our waxing philosophical, we'd like to give a shout out to our first Patreon supporter, Justin Samwara.
Yes, Justin. All right.
Yeah, Justin. Thank you.
Yeah, that's exciting.
And just to let you guys know, that is an option. If you like to get our extended episodes, longer than the 30 minutes long episodes that you see on YouTube normally, you can join our Patreon for the hour-long extended episodes.
Yeah, well, close to an hour. Whatever we end up,
You may get an hour.
We're not making any promises, people. Okay, there may be days weeks where we're not providing that much. But we want to try. We found that there's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about and want to say, but we just kind of run out of time for making the video for it. So hopefully, if you guys didn't hear that last week, we got into a deeper discussion with our last guest. Stavi from NM Fungi. Shout out to them. And so it's an option. Check us out on Patreon. And So Malachi, why don't you take us into our next segment, which is Newsies.
So, today, I ended up coming across this news article, brought to you by Now This Is News. It is a little bit of fun.
What are you watching over there?
This is the news article. So apparently, an elderly home, a nursing home in Taiwan, thought it would be a great idea to bring in a stripper to provide lap dances for the elderly people in the home. And now that the video has gotten out there, it's gone viral.
There's a video of it?
Yeah, there's a video. Just like any politician knows, you don't film it. But they filmed it, and now they had to issue an apology, And I'm just like, what?
Oh, they're issuing an apology for it?
Yeah, they're issuing an apology that it was in bad taste, that they probably shouldn't have done that. Probably not film it, but probably, have...
our only regret is that we filmed it.
That's what they're apologizing for.
Yeah, that's the only reason let's be clear, that's the only reason they're probably apologizing.
Just to clarify, was this like old men and like a young female like stripping, or was this like grandma with like Thunder Down Under?
No, this is a young woman, I'm assuming. It's Taiwan, you never know. You don't want to assume.
All right.
But I'm just
made
saying.
That mistake once.
We've all seen The Hangover, right? Anyways, and so apparently she was a young woman, doing the business. And so it looks like from the video there's a lot of
how many times you watch that video, Mal?
Hey, it's playing right now. Okay.
Right. That's interesting.
Anyways,
okay,
so well, let's move on.
They're doing some interesting things out that way, in Taiwan, and I guess
all I gotta say is you gotta take care of your elders.
That's what they were trying to do.
Yeah, it was all in good heart,
Came from a good place.
Came from a good place. All right, what's our next topic of news this week?
So our next topic is there's a Sioux, Native American Sioux chef. He's not a sous chef.
He's a head chef.
No,
he's the head chef.
He's a sous chef. Yeah.
He's a Sioux. No, he's a Sioux from the Sioux tribe.
Yeah,
head chef.
Yeah, and his name is Chef Shing Sherman. Sorry, that was too many S's for me.
Wait, it's just Sherman, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
It was Shing. Sean.
Shing?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
SEAN.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Sean.
English, man. I've been speaking it my entire life, and I still don't know. So he's opening a controversial restaurant in Minneapolis that focuses on decolonized foods, with the hope of opening up the discussion on this discrimination of Native American foodways. And basically the whole idea is to move away from like no wheat, no flour, no cane sugar, no dairy beef or pork or chicken, these things that the foods that have come over from European to basically kind of create this holistic, not holistic.
Came over to poison our people.
taking it back to the roots.
Yeah.
Here in
send it back. We don't want
the
it.
original locally sourced foods.
Yeah,
that's what's up.
And so like he was doing braised.
He's doing a lot of stuff with
cedar
buffalo.
braised buffalo. Yeah,
a lot of buffalo.
I'm about it.
A lot of bark.
Yeah,
a lot of fruits and nuts.
The original sorghums of the country. I don't know.
Legumes.
Legumes. Yeah.
Okay.
Watching that video.
You better take that video off before your wife comes across it.
We're gonna there we go. But yeah, so he's been doing.
Your phone's gonna freeze and you have to go to the Apple store. That guy, explain that to the Apple guy.
I just can't seem to get rid of this video.
He's like, oh yeah, your cousin was in here with the same problem.
I won't even tell you what he had on his phone. Right?
But so
these Taiwanese,
So back to Sean though. He the one that I'm seeing here is he does Bison cranberry meatballs, which look delicious.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did our native people eat a lot of meatballs though? I wonder. Like I wonder like what they like how they.
If you think
how they actually prepared it.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, they had a lot of interaction with the Vikings, if you believe that, and that's where we get Swedish meatballs. That's where we would have gotten them. Swedish meatballs from the Vikings.
Pork.
Man, it's kind of a trip. So when I was in college, I had this professor that was like Native Americans like studies guy, and he was like, first off he was like white, right, like Anglo, which was just kind of funny. But I mean, not funny, but just kind of
the white man telling me to yell at myself.
Yeah, so you get them absurdities, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like he was like, yeah, man, like natives, you guys used to just like kill that buffalo and just eat it raw. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, man, no parasites. And I was like, yeah, maybe you got something there. So I don't know. It makes you think about our early,
our early ancestors.
Yeah, like what they consumed.
Yeah, but they could probably take that diet though, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were pretty. Their immune systems were probably.
I remember
pretty,
the first time we went and drank out of a stream, dude. It runs for like weeks. Remember that? You were there.
I mean, I tell you, like I just get a little stressed out, and ain't nothing right after that.
Too much coffee.
That's
coffee
cool.
in your diet.
Yeah, that's cool though. We need to. I think that's cool. That's a great concept, and hopefully, they don't take it any steps further and start like
Having you kill your own food.
Gonna have to
actually,
butcher
no,
my
that
own
actually
sheep.
would be cool.
That's
would
where the
be,
money's at. I'm telling
that
you.
would be cool, though.
He's
That
smart.
would be cool if they gave people that
Interactive.
opportunity.
Kill your own buffalo.
Yeah, you know, or
You have
at
to-
least like in on the process of like, you know.
Get real primitive and have to chase it over a cliff and
Do
everything.
you guys remember Forgetting Sarah Marshall? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And he's like having a hard time. He's in Hawaii, you know, and the guy's like, "Hey, well, why don't you come to the luau tonight?" He's like, "Oh, really?" He's like, "Yeah, you can help me prepare the pig." He's like, "Oh, cool." And they just cut through the scene, and they're like, the pig is squealing off camera, and he's like, "Stick him, get him, Peter." And he's like, "I don't want him." He's like, "Hurry!" And you just hear, and he just starts. And it's like, he's like, "You don't have to cry so much." He's like, like carrying the pig. Yeah, that's the process. That's what we need in this
That's
that's
what we
day
need
and
more
age.
of.
Is, you know, you gotta be willing to get dirty. You know.
Yep.
Anyways,
All right.
enough of that. Cool. We're gonna go ahead and take a quick break. And if you're listening in on Patreon, we might banter a little bit more about some of these news stories. But yeah, check us out on Patreon. And if not, we'll be right back with our guest, Phil Tsoodle. All right.
And we're back.
As we are.
We got our special guest here today, Phillip Tsoodle Nelson.
Phil. We're still indecisive. Phil or Philip? What do you want? You tell us.
We've only known each other in our entire lives.
I know, yeah.
I don't. No, we can go with Phil. It's fine.
I could call you Fop if you want.
No. That's my password.
It's a street name.
See, that's the thing is like I feel like in our family we've all had like multiple nicknames.
Personalities.
Yeah. I mean, like I know, like I've been called a whole bunch of different names.
Yeah.
Some of them
Most of yours come from your mom, though, you know?
Yeah.
Which is real angry.
When she's upset.
So some of them you can't air on television.
Yeah. Well, hey, guys, we are here with Phil. He's our cousin. And like you said, we grew up together. But we wanted to have him on today because we wanted to get into a little bit of a little bit more of a serious subject here. I know we're all for laughs and having a good time. But the thing about it is Phil is a well, tell us a little bit about yourself, Phil. You're working in the
Oh yeah, no, I work at the. Sorry, I'm shouting in the mic here.
you don't have to say where, just you know.
Yeah, no, I work in healthcare.
Wait, where?
I'm
No.
working right.
Name names.
right. No, I've spent a good portion of the last 14 years in healthcare and been around the world, seen a lot of things. No, but just being through this time, and I think one thing we want to talk about was COVID and everything. It's kind of a big thing in our.
Yeah, well, working as in the healthcare profession during this global pandemic, there's been plenty of articles, people sharing their experiences, but there's obviously stuff that things that maybe people don't talk about or don't have the time to talk about in that sense. And so we thought it would be interesting because I know we were talking to you just a little bit about your experience. Well, tell us, what was that transition like?
It's been a pretty wild ride. I think we were kind of talking off camera about everything. Dealing with this whole ongoing pandemic and never ending, and always there's always a threat, right? It's something also bigger, all the variants and everything. But it's we're just kind of I was trying to remember what it was like in the beginning. When we were just talking about that, how many of you guys still wipe down your groceries? Anybody here?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I mean, from time to time, that was a big part of our lives. Sitting there wiping down,
eating at Elliot's house,
using Clorox wipes to wipe down everything.
You know what's crazy though is like I grew up in a household. My mom like always wiped down our groceries from the beginning, and like you'd be surprised like how much of your food like comes packaging is just filthy once you're done cleaning.
Oh
it.
yeah.
Like you see it, you're like, because it gets transported by diesel. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of stuff on there. So
right.
I mean, I work in a warehouse. I know how.
Yeah, I see the packages. That's
How many times I've dropped something and just thought, let's just send it.
Lick that package.
I for those of you who don't know, I had COVID in the very early stages.
I think we've all had COVID.
Yeah.
Well,
I was
hospitalized for it.
Yeah, that's right.
I was like 2 steps away from being on a ventilator. So
you had the COVID.
Yeah, I had the COVID before I had the first one. It was the original.
Before you got popular.
Yeah, before. Yeah, you guys are just posers. No. But yeah, no, it is a terrifying experience. What was it like, just in general, of the hospital? How was working in the healthcare field like, in general? Because you have colleagues, all everywhere.
Yeah.
What was the general feel?
Like, what was it through your eyes? Like,
so yeah, absolutely. So I was thinking about that, right? I mean, talking about the early days of COVID, and in healthcare, there's always an acceptable risk. Dealing with bodily fluids and disease and certainly death in lots of cases. But I was thinking about it, and the early days of COVID, I was talking about it with one of our other providers. We were at a delivery, and it was one of like a COVID delivery, and we were talking about how we used to. In the very early days, we would still, and they still in practice now, but they'd use all the PPE, the personal protective equipment. So, we'd gown and we glove and we put like all of the things on. We're all wearing our N95s and some of the docs had the like face shields on.
Yeah.
A lot of that kind of went. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of that. As times change and everything, you go into your first experience. And you have no idea what to expect. I mean, and at that point in time, we were all trying to, figure things out, right? Not just at the hospital, but, everywhere. You hear about all these people dying. You remember all those refrigerated trucks, in New York, and they were just stacking bodies, and putting them in those cold storage areas. And, I remember in town, several of the local hospitals would have had refrigerated trucks, on standby. They were just kind of sitting there because we had no idea. And, I remember just being, just a little scared, a little apprehensive about things. You have no idea. You hear about, what's happening, in the world, in China, and then, you saw like New York and, California, it started getting closer and closer to home. And then, you get your first case here and you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So how are we going to handle this?
Yeah.
Like, you start looking at the infectious disease people, they became big. And around the hospital, we used to joke about it and talking about how the infectious disease, nerds all got their 15 minutes of fame, called it the Fauci fame. But yeah, no, I mean, we were going to them for guidance, like on everything. And I remember the policies were changing like constantly all the time. So, hospital, administration, they'd constantly consult with infectious disease, who would, consult with the, CDC and all these other places. And, I think that was one of the most kind of, interesting things about COVID, from where we were to where we are and, where we are in the future. It's real different now, but I know that, our very first time, dude, it was pretty scary. You walk in, you're double gloving everything. You're wearing these hair nets and all these different things, shout out to my cousins out there, who are still, banging on the streets, where there's hair nets and everything, dude.
I remember my experience. It was, as a patient, obviously it was frightening because I didn't know what was going to happen to me, but I do remember a bit of it, going in, because I was actually pretty out of it when I was going in, because I was like so low on oxygen, and it was just like it all happened so quick. But I do just remember feeling like, because like you said, everybody was trying to protect themselves, and it was like it felt weird because it was like so just like, oh, we're gonna stay away, and like you have to, everybody's protecting themselves, but it was very like, okay, what do you need, here you go, okay, and it, everybody takes like 5 steps back. And I remember the doctor I had wouldn't even come into the room. He would just like kind of like take 1 step in and then kind of like, let me know what's going on, and then just like 1 step back out the door. And he was like, you wouldn't even approach, and with good reason. But I can only imagine that amount of fear I guess, was maybe through, you guys and the staff, or was there like
so you're seeing it from the perspective of you just being a patient,
right?
You're a single person, right, in this room. People don't want to come in and everything, and I think about as providers and medical staff, you not only do you have just the one, but you have several, and then as the pandemic continued, one patient turned into 5 and it turned into 15 or whatever. And I remember we'd get emails from the hospital, just talking about, our ratios and things like that. And that, we'd hear reports about other hospitals that, how many cases they had. And it just seemed like our cases went from like single digit cases to double digit. And then they stopped like telling us about the individual, the COVID, but they'd talk about, who was positive, at that point. And that was a big thing, right? I mean, even, the governor at that time, she would have those, weekly updates, have the big map on TV and Zoom and everything. And, just talking about the different numbers. And then it became a numbers game. Like everybody was concerned about how many numbers of cases we had in the hospital. And, then it was just this thing that was happening, right? And, being bedside and being in COVID during this time, I like I said, in the beginning, we were all, pretty kind of, scared about the whole thing. Okay, how are we approaching this? What are we doing? Our protocols are different. We'd go in with the first one, and then you come back and you're like, oh shoot, did I take off my gloves right? Did I do this and this right? Taking off my stuff, because most of us have families, and so you go back and everything, and you're concerned about giving this this virus to
bring
your
it
families
back home, or even a coworker or something,
right?
Yeah.
So then you're worried, and then that's when the whole social distancing happening. So right, so people were staying away and stuff, and I know in healthcare the big push was if you did take care of these COVID patients, they'd set you up with ways to not track it home and everything. So you set you up with like hotel rooms, or if you're going to be staying like long term, they had off-site housing for a lot of the docs that would have to deal with this and everything. And it was pretty crazy. I mean, we were just sitting there, and then there's a whole thing where they you started getting COVID, right? So then you got to talk to the COVID hotline, and they'd give you all the guidance and run down all the different symptoms.
Man, that's good stuff. Hey, we're running out of time here for the YouTube on this segment, but we're going to go ahead and take a quick break for the YouTubers. If you're interested in checking our Patreon out, we're going to continue this little conversation a little bit more, and you guys can definitely listen in. Check us out on Patreon. Again, we're here with Phil, and thank you, Phil, and we'll be right back, y'all.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the show. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Remember to share the show, because sharing is caring. Now back to the show.
Whoa. And we are back again. Thank you guys for joining us. This is Off the Reservation. We're here with Phil Tsoodle.
Hey, how's it going?
Cousin Phil. Brother Phil.
Father Philip. Father Philip.
Brother Phil. Preacher man.
But if you we were just in a discussion earlier about speaking about a little bit about Phil, his background, how he got into healthcare and that journey to here. We kind of dipped into a subject we wanted to share with you guys, or talk a little bit more about, was just, the aspect of what COVID did with a lot of people's mental health. Something that didn't really get talked about, I think. And there was an aspect of it you wanted to share with us, just, purely, of, your opinion, what you saw. And, I obviously I have mine too, because, like I said, we're all part of it,
Yeah.
We've all experienced it. So
we've all been touched by it.
But you were talking, what were you saying about, that aspect? We were talking about essential workers, and the term essential workers was thrown out. It became a big deal, right?
We definitely saw the fact that there was and you can still see it now, people who are dealing with the residual effects of COVID, and mental health is a real big thing. I mean, it's always been a big thing, in the U.S. And one of the things that they maybe pushed aside when COVID came around, but then now we're seeing record numbers of individuals who are experiencing mental health issues, breakdowns, suicide ideation, all of that sort of stuff. So it's definitely become a problem, very problematic.
Yeah.
That I don't think we deal with as a society, and as a it would be nice if individual Native populations, reservations and Native people, tribes themselves, were able to play a more key role in that as well. Mental health, but I think.
Oh, that's something Son of Picasso has been saying for a while.
Yeah, that's part. I mean, I am just one person, but that comes down to one of the key points I make in my reparations argument is that's something that needs to be repaid to natives. That idea of making us whole mentally again. There's a lot of trauma that we've suffered because of colonization, because of being put into Indian boarding schools. There's lots of things like that weren't a part of our culture that, let's just be honest about it, that were brought over by Europeans and inflicted upon us. And so that's kind of one of my big pushes in reparations, is that idea of there needs to be a mental health aspect to that as well.
And I wonder if, like you said, now more than ever, people need that. We've always been big proponents of mental health,
Yeah.
I've gone to therapy. It's helped, it helps you process things. Going through this period for myself was huge too, because I lost my job during COVID. I wasn't deemed an essential worker. I worked in a hotel. We were like the epitome of just like extra money and having fun. Like working in a hotel. It was a resort. But it's tough. You come out of it and you start to feel like, well, maybe I made a horrible choice in career, because it's like when the time comes and things, hit the fan, it's like I'm not needed, and so it was kind of an interesting, like you mentioned, like it was an interesting like mix for me mentally, kind of like, well, shoot, like maybe I need to go do something else, and that can be a good thing in some aspects. It could push some people who had bigger aspirations to say, you know what, maybe I should go do that. But it could also take, the opposite, and really put that toll on it. It's something you said that you've noticed, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all kind of felt that and noticed, being in healthcare, you get the emails and everything that are, talking about, the different things that are happening and, in our communities and things, and numbers increasing, COVID, suicide attempts, all these different things, that are happening all across the board. And it's not just something that I think any one health entity or organization, is responsible for. I think, we were talking about, I think it's bigger than that, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed. And I know there's a lot of negative connotations with healthcare and getting help and everything else. And I think that's bad. And then people who are on medications. I mean, there's I had a friend of mine. She was like, oh my gosh, telling me, I haven't seen her in 3 months, and I was like, hey, how are things going? And we were trying to catch up, and she's like, oh yeah, no, I've been in the suicide ward for a long time. And I was like, oh, what happened to you? And, she was like, oh yeah, that's fine. She's like, no, it's cool. I'm doing better. She's like, but, I thought I was diagnosed with one thing. And 3 months ago, she was diagnosed with like a mental health issue and, which she was, getting treatment for. And she's like, if it wasn't for, somebody paying attention and realizing that, it wasn't, this medical thing, but it was more of a mental health sort of issue.
Yeah.
She would have continued on her life, thinking it was, some sort of medical disease that she had and didn't realize that it was something totally different. It was more psychological and she was able to get on some medications and different treatment therapies. And, she was like, yeah. And she was like the first person I talked with that actually didn't like have, wasn't too reserved about it and really wanted to share and open up and say, hey, this is something.
Yeah, it's weird when you're in those conversations with people because you're like, well, this isn't something people talk about,
Right.
And I think I've kind of found that's kind of part of it is like, you think you shouldn't talk about that kind of stuff because you feel like maybe you're going to feel like ashamed or like people are going to judge you,
Right.
and that's kind of the thing that like needs to be like broken, is that feeling of like, oh, I'm going to get judged if I talk. People are going to think I'm a head case or something, It's
Right,
like, well, no, like everybody on some level is dealing with something like that, It doesn't make you weak
everyone
or
deals
any
with
less
some kind
of a
of
person.
trauma.
Yeah, and so, I think you're right. I think that's something that like needs to be talked about.
I think a lot of that too, stems from, the way we joke around, we all joke around, in our daily lives and everything. And we look at Hollywood and movies and TV and everything. And, we talk about, we were just joking just now about even the healthcare profession, male nurses, and that movie Meet the Fockers where, they're male nurse and they were making fun of them for that and everything. And, and even to that, sort of aspect of things, going into it, I didn't, I've never really cared what other people, have to, say about me or whatever, or, anything like that. But, I'm pretty open and honest. But just going into it, I can see where there was some reservation with some other people that were like other male guys that in my group, and there was only like maybe like 4 or 5 of us, that were in our nursing cohort.
Yeah,
and then as it goes along, you start to kind of see those guys kind of drift off, and next thing you know, there's only like 3 of you in the class and everything, and a whole 20 other female nurses out there, and talking to other people, you're like, oh yeah, I don't know if I want to talk about, I'm a male nurse, or, going back to the whole idea, of mental health and, people thinking you're a head case or something like that. There's a lot of movies that are, stigmatize a lot of people about that. Mm-hmm. But I think it's definitely something that needs to be brought up and addressed. And it'd be nice if, like I was saying, other tribes and everything might, be able to band together and, tackle mental health and on their level, at least, to get back to their people.
Yeah. We're almost. Oh, sorry.
So actually, before we close out, I wanted to ask you if you had any suggestions on how to get into the medical field.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
Just for like anyone who's interested. How old are they? Like however old they are.
Oh, over the last few years, I've seen a lot of healthcare professionals come into the medical field. And from all levels, whether you're coming in as a doctor, an MD, or all the way down to somebody who's even just wanting to get into healthcare in general. There's a lot of opportunities and venues there. If you are interested, take a look at the job websites. I mean, there's huge hiring attempt right now because there's a healthcare shortage of providers and nurses and techs and everything, getting involved in that. But, if you find yourself an individual who is at a turning point in your life, you're like, man, I really think that that's something I want to do. Do it. Just do it. I mean, there's you can take a look around, there's the opportunities for education. You go on to like community colleges. Santa Fe has a community college, a nursing program. CNM has a nursing program. UNM has a nursing programming. Take a look at those and talk with an advisor and seeing what steps you need to take in order to get into healthcare.
Yeah, and I guess like what one of the big questions I've had, because I thought about potentially getting into the healthcare system, but like how necessary is higher education for the medical field? I mean, like obviously, like you would have to be a nurse or anything like in that level, you would have to get an education. But if you're like a tech or something like that, like, I guess, I don't know what is.
So for like education requirements, again, it's probably different from each healthcare facility. Mm-hmm. You can take a look at those job descriptions and see what each minimum requirement for the education is required for that. Mm-hmm. But if you're wanting to get into most tech positions, only require you to have like very basic medical background, or even if nothing too extreme. But you can actually go ahead and go on to like a community college and take like a tech course. I think they have, some basic healthcare things. And then most healthcare facilities will actually, give you your education as well. They would, put you through classes and everything for, different types of tech work and things like that. And then there's always the certifications, I think every 2 years you got to get your medical license, your nursing license or registrations, and then, whatever, CPR and, first responder sort of, certifications you have to get.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. Well, hey, thanks a lot, Phil. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah,
We're really happy to have you.
Long-time listener, first-time guest. So thank you. Appreciate it.
We're excited. Again, we've got a Patreon. We're going to continue this talk a little bit more. Not sure what we're going to go into, but if you want to find out, click on that link and
favorite flavor of ice cream.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you all the tough questions. But again, guys, thanks for joining in. Check us out on Patreon. Like, follow, subscribe, and
share.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks.
Thanks.
How did I get pigeonholed as the elderly stripper?